Hey guys, happy holidays, happy new year, Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. So this is probably my fourth time recording this video because every single time I try to be able to talk on camera about this book I released because I want you guys to know a little bit about it and I want to be able to kind of sell it, so you people get interested. It's really difficult, and I think a lot of you who've written your own stuff, who've tried to summarize your own material, know how difficult it is to concisely talk about your own work. So, instead of getting into the nitty gritty of the plot, what I think might be better would be just to give an overview of what I see as kind of the core pieces of the book, the world, just give you guys a little bit of insight into why I think it's an interesting piece of fiction that you guys would be, drawn to. Because I know if I start going into actual plot lines, because there's multiple POVs, the book takes place across multiple countries, I'm never gonna shut up. So basically what I guess I'll start off with, it's medieval fantasy. Except one thing you should know is that if you've watched this channel, you've heard me say before, I basically never liked reading when I was younger. Everything that I read, I kind of got bored with pretty easily. It's gotten better now that I'm older, and now it's literally my job to read every single day. But I specifically wrote this book for people who might have trouble staying invested in fiction, right? Or at least the written work. I'm someone who gets very easily bored with the book if it's not written in a way that's going to keep me interested. So this book is specifically written for people who feel like maybe books haven't kept their attention before. I try to have it be as simple to read, as interesting to read as possible. Of course, every author says that. But for me personally, I think that's always been my goal. So when I say it's fantasy fiction, I kind of say my little tagline is that it is, for me, it's like Avatar: The Last Airbender meets X-Men meets Downton Abbey. Because in my world, it's very much medieval. But there are powers in the world, except people don't call them powers, they call them talents. And talents are passed down through the generations. So just like how I said, Avatar, X-Men, you're born into your ability. So you have this medieval world, but you also have a bunch of the people in here just have congenital superpowers, basically. And the world is shaped around how the existence of these superpowers have basically formed the different cultures and beliefs and the outlooks. So depending on your bloodline, your children can even have different powers than you. And again, I can get so far into this that it would probably take another 30 minutes. But a lot of the book is really based around the human heart and conflict with itself. That is my favorite quote ever from George R. R. Martin. And I really like writing about people and characters. In the struggles that they personally go through. So even though the story itself is set in a really, fantastic, epic environment, a lot of what's depicted in the book is actually really close to the characters themselves. So just to give you an example of one of the characters that is prominent throughout the book, one of the POV characters, his name is Jackal Tellin. So yes, literally like Jackal, like the animal. And Jackal is basically the best warrior in the main kind of kingdom of this world. Jackal is the adopted son of the emperor of that realm. And the thing that pushes Jackal through the story is his need to basically, how do I put this, be recognized as someone great. He was abandoned by his people when he was younger, and he ended up being adopted by the emperor of this country he finds himself in. Now he's like a 40-year-old man. And he's basically earned the love and respect of his adoptive family. But because of that, he's grown to hate his original family, his original people. He's an Easterner. He was given over to the West. The circumstances behind him being given up are going to be left for later books. But I really wanted to be able to dive into that idea of identity, of who Jackal is and what he wants to be. He's this great warrior, and he's super cocky, and he's royalty, but he's also incredibly insecure, and he does things to make people see him in a certain way. And the events of the book really kind of prey on that for how his conflict goes, where his journey goes, because he eventually has to go up against things that no matter how great of a warrior he is, no matter how great people perceive him to be, he may not have the tools to be able to overcome it. And that's something completely new for him. And that kind of aligns with, again, much of the bigger plots of this story. Because again, it's multiple POVs. It takes place over, gosh, it's three countries, soon to be like four, multiple different cultures. And I just wanted to write something that was easy to read, that was inspired by the shows that I liked, by the anime that I liked, by even the music that I like, and the different pieces of what I thought fiction, really could be as in entertaining written form. Again, I'm trying to make this as easy as possible to read. I'm a visual learner. Pretty much everything that I have to learn myself, I like seeing it done out in front of me. And I'm also, as far as fiction goes, a visual consumer. So that's why I've always liked television, video games, movies. And I try to write my stories as if I'm really trying to get you to see it through your mind's eye. I like being really visual with my descriptions. I like making sure that everything comes off clearly. And the best way for me to be able to show you guys that is if you read the book yourself, right? So enough about, I guess, that section of the book. I know that's not a ton for you guys to go off of. But I really do think that if you're a fan of just fantasy fiction in general, I'm not going to say a fan of well-written characters, because again, every author says that. But if that's your kind of thing, I would highly implore you to check out the book. Just a little bit of background about how I see this series going forward. So basically, I have 5 books written. I'm working on a 6th and a 7th, but this first book is the core book in the series. So I always liken it to basically the Avengers model. So you have the core Avengers movies, right? That brings all of the characters together. And that's kind of what Blood of One's Blood is, this first book. The next 5 to 6 books that I will release actually focus on the individual characters of Blood of One's Blood before the events of this first book. So for example, the next 2 books that I will release are A Heart of Woe and A Heart of Woe Book 2. And they focus on characters from Blood of One's Blood, but just 17 years prior to the events of that first book. Same thing for the 4th book that I'll release. It's called Seeds of Shadows. That focuses on characters of Blood of One's Blood before the actual events of the first book, right? So basically, each of these subsequent books are going to give backstory to these characters, to the world, and actually try to tackle different genres with every single one of these books. So where Blood of One's Blood is going to be pretty much your, not typical, but that tried and true epic fantasy, Heart of Woe and Heart of Woe Book 2 are actually kind of murder, mystery, crime, noir books, just set in a medieval setting. Seeds of Shadows, which is my 4th book. That's kind of like a mafia novel. A lot of it is about crime and the mob and the underground, except set in medieval setting, and the mob boss is like a 90-year-old Irish woman. That's my favorite book. I think you all will love that when it comes out. My 5th book is a war story, basically. It follows a soldier, a criminal, and a dragon. So the dragons do come in this series, I promise you. But basically all this is to say is that those books are an exploration of the world. And they also give me practice about how to write. So, writing this first Blood of One's Blood book, I basically have the sequel to that book halfway finished. And that'll come out hopefully, in the next few years. But every time I release a core Blood of One's Blood book entry, and I plan for there to be around 5, I'll probably release 5 more side books. And just to give you guys some kind of estimates on how fast I can write, and how long you'd have to wait between releases, Heart of Woe Book 1 took me 6 weeks to write. Heart of Woe Book 2 I think took me another 6 weeks to write. Seeds of Shadows, that took me 9 months to write. And then the final book, or the 5th book I should say. 4th? The 5th book. Yeah. And then the 5th book, which is called Imperius, which is the one with the dragon, that took me 3 months to write. So hopefully the idea is you release a core book, then 4 or 5 books kind of diving into the characters, and then release a core book, 4 or 5 book diving into the past of the characters, and so on and so forth. So if there's 5 Blood of One's Blood books to be released, that probably means there's going to be like 30 books in this series. So I'm going to be writing these for a while. There's a lot of content. It's a huge world. I've literally, I think it's like 8,000 years of history that I've constructed. It's a lot. It's so much that I've even forgotten some of the things. But each of these books, again, are supposed to be, one, written in such a way that they're easy to get through, that hopefully you'll enjoy, because they come from a person who's catering towards people who might have difficulty with reading. And 2, I think it might be just cool for you guys to see how I approach storytelling in a holistic way. You know, on the core channel, I talk about storytelling all the time, the do's and don'ts. And now you get to see like a full picture of what I consider to be storytelling that I would want to tell, storytelling that I get to craft from top to bottom. So that's always great as well. Again, so this video was really impromptu. I tried recording it again 3 or 4 times, never worked out, so this is as best as I could do. If you guys have read the book, or if you have any questions, I do want to hear about it in the comments. I want to have like a conversation and a dialogue about how you guys feel about this, because more books will be coming soon. I'm going to try to open up a review section on the website, or just a review section somewhere, so you guys can talk about it, so I can get feedback. I've already talked to some people who've read the book. They've reached out to me, they've emailed me, I've asked them to give me a call. We've chatted for probably 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, because I'm always looking for some kind of feedback to be able to see what I can improve on, because no matter how much you write, no matter how much advice you take from other writers, from other successful people, it's always good to be able to improve. So comment below if you've read the book. If you have any questions, ask me. I hope this was helpful. If you guys want to know more about this series, and again, there's so much in this series that I haven't even touched upon yet. Just let me know and I could make more videos about it. But thank you so much for watching to the end. As always, it was a pleasure, and I'll talk to you all again soon.